Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Lido History. Special Sunday stream because I was out of town yesterday. So today we're jumping back in Curse of the Dead Gods. I'm Adam, and I'm joined today by Sacerdos.
Hey,
So while we were getting ready, you mentioned that our title is wrong. Well, I boot up or get started, and we kind of set up the title screen here. Why don't you explain a little bit more as to why you dislike my own title?
well, you called me a Mesoamerican historian in the title, and I mean, that's not entirely wrong. I'm a historian of the Spanish Empire, and I have worked the most on Mexico, on Mesoamerica, and on Colombia. But I don't know, Mesoamerican historian, first of all, sounds a little like I am from Mesoamerica, like I don't know, a Spanish historian or a South African historian. That
Fair.
that sounds a little like it's the place I'm from, and that can be a bit misleading, especially in the current climate of discourse, where it is considered very important what position, what background one is speaking from. So I'm from Germany. I'm doing this professionally. I've studied it, but I have not actually so far even managed to visit Mexico. So that just as context, I'm not Mexican. I'm not speaking from personal experience or a cultural background there, just from having studied this. And secondly, yeah, I'm not entirely specialized in Mesoamerican, especially not in the Maya, because the Maya involve a lot of archaeology, and I'm not an archaeologist. So there's a lot of little things or even larger things that I will just simply not know in regards to this. What I have studied, worked with, is the conquest of Mesoamerica by the Spanish and the colonial period, and that does give me a lot of background knowledge on the cultural situation there. But it's just so people know what they're getting into. That is different set of skills and knowledge that I bring to this than an actual Mayanist specialist in Maya language and archaeology would
Reasonable.
bring.
Awesome. But that works out super nicely because if you take a look at our title guide, you can see he's about the most hard-boiled white guy that you could possibly ask for. Let's hop in. We're going to continue with this one for the sake of not going through basic stuff, but yeah, there's the premise of the game is that we are a British or American person, it's not super clear, who have been trapped inside this temple.
All right. How?
We just were. We walked in and
All
then we
right.
were.
Just to say that I'm going in entirely blind. I know nothing about this game. So we'll see what I see.
Yep.
I see skull imagery.
A
I
lot of
see.
skull imagery.
Yeah. And there's some kind of big round stone. Those are always popular. So this is wrong. Um,
That didn't take long.
yeah, first of all, the big round stone thing, that's not Maya. That's Aztec. Second of all, it would have lain flat. Um, that we are actually kind of used to it hanging vertically, because that's how they put it up. It and replicas of it. I've seen a replica of it in Madrid. That's how they put it up in museums, because
Mm-hmm.
this way you can see this enormous piece of artwork properly. But originally it would have lain horizontally. And yeah, the details, it has like the basic outline, but when you look at the details, doesn't have that much in common with the actual calendar stone.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
uh,
apart from like vaguely having arrows pointing in different directions.
yeah, it has that kind of sun thing, and I'm not quite sure these two things at the bottom. Maybe they're serpents encircling it. That
Yeah, it
wouldn't
looks
be
like it's a
entirely
serpent,
wrong.
a skull, an eagle, and I'm gonna guess it's this jaguar as the one on top that we can't see.
Oh, okay, so there's animal hats on it,
Yep,
some kind of,
yep, three animal
I
heads and a
don't know,
human skull.
symbols, totems in air quotes.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's neither quite wrong nor quite right. That's because there are what would look like animal symbols to us on it. I'm
Hmm.
trying to find a good clear picture of it to put in the comments so people can see.
Awesome. Yeah, and if I
But
looking on the edge, I can also see they've got the in profile eagle, jaguar, serpent on the
uh-huh.
wall.
Those are probably like vaguely inspired by the calendar signs that are
Hmm.
on. Okay, I'm just using this one. It's neither particularly pretty nor is it complete because it's just the inner section of the stone.
Yeah, there's one. Moscow has a replica of one that I think is digitized or in good condition. Let's see if I can find that.
All right, because I just noticed I don't actually have a Twitch account and it wants my
Yep. You can
Facebook.
also just DM to me and I'll throw it in. I'll
Yep,
throw it up on screen.
I'll do that. That's something I forgot. Like I said, it's not particularly good, but
Oh
um,
yeah.
Google image search is not bringing up something much better. So there are these four prominent heads. These represent the former ages of the world. So in
Ooh.
again, we are Aztec, not Maya with the stone. So the world was created 5 times, destroyed 4 times. We are in the fifth world now that has not been destroyed yet. Um, and each world is represented by a calendar sign representing the year in which it started. So the sacred calendars of Mesoamerican cultures work kind of like this. You have a count of 13 numbers. You count 1, 2, 3 to 13, and you have 20 signs, mostly animals, but also things like wind, house, reed, and so on. So just symbols, 20 of them. And so each day is a combination of the number and the sign. So you could say that
Ooh.
the 13 days is kind of like a week, and the 20 days is kind of like a month. So you have day one. No, it's not like a month. I hate explaining this because I'm not good with mathematics, and this is really mathematical. But yeah, you have they have an order, and you count both simultaneously. So you start one house, and after house comes wind, so you count two wind, and there there are of course 13 numbers and 20 signs, so um you don't get to the end of the symbols by the time you start over with the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
um so you actually get 360 different combinations. And anyway, each year in a 52-year cycle starts with a different sign. And yeah, the world ages are named. That's how I got here after the year um in which they started. And so you have here the jaguar, wind, rain, and water signs. And I guess that's why in the game they plastered these animal symbols onto the great circular stone. And here on the outer rim of this image, which, as I said, is just a part of the larger
Mm-hmm.
calendar stone, you can actually see the 20 um, day signs. So
Amazing.
you can maybe recognize the skull. That's the sign for death on the left. And counting on from death, you have snake, lizard, house, wind, alligator or caiman, um, reed, rain, flint, movement, vulture, eagle, jaguar, flower, grass, monkey, dog, water, rabbit, deer.
Uh-huh.
It's Max KJ explained it pretty well. If you imagine the 13 as one gear with its teeth fitting into the teeth of a larger gear that is the 20 signs, that's a good mental image for how these day combinations come about.
Yeah, and on that note, rotating gears as it turns into our door to actually access the rest of the temple.
Oh, that's kind of nice.
Uh-huh. So we could take on... Let's try and take on the storm here. So as we're going, we're basically dungeon crawling with different stuff that we can access in each stage. We can get gold, relics, unknowns, new weapons, heals, blessings from our dead gods, which are... We have a jaguar god, an eagle god, and a snake god.
Okay.
And all sorts of fun stuff. I think we're gonna run relics. And as we go farther in, we get progressively more cursed. Because just existing in this temple apparently curses us to eventually go insane and die. Which, is a choice. Entering the Noble's Corner.
So, the load screen we just saw, that temple, that's pretty much directly just modeled after the Maya temple of Tikal, the city of Tikal.
Makes sense. And I mean, this space looks like it's extremely vaguely Aztec to my eyes, which are extremely untrained, but
So yeah, you inside a building, you would not have this kind of floors. I think the most floors I've seen on pictures I know are plastered, not tiled, or marbled or whatever this is. And is this some kind of harpy?
yep,
Okay,
that's exactly what it is, actually. I think we have a codex here with the bestiary for what we've got. Those are, sir.
Oh, okay.
We are eagles. Yeah, they're actually just literally harpies.
Well, okay,
Uh-huh.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing more Mexican than harpies, I guess. Also, why do these guys have crossbows?
I don't think they have crossbow. I think those are just very large bows that are way too thick to actually be...
Okay, because of the angle, I thought.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep, I'm pretty sure that these... Actually, what the heck is going on with these?
I wish I
Now
knew.
I'm confused. I can't tell if it's like their arm fuses into their bow, or they're shooting arrows the size of 2x4s, or
don't
what's
know.
going on. There's something spooky.
Huh.
Let's see if we can take a look. There's another one right here, so I can actually take a look at them and try and just dodge better. Oh wait, that's bad. Oh yeah, their arms just merge into their freaking thing.
That is kind of similar to a crossbow then, though.
Yeah, it super is. Huh. Well, that feels weird. And Leander, I'm doing good. My throat is destroyed, so we're not going to go for a little bit shorter today because I was outside in the rain all day yesterday. But I am having a great time.
Well,
Also,
I'm
do you
still
like the
figuring
electrical
out
traps?
how I'm
Do you
liking
like the
this.
electric traps? Yeah. Is there anything you've seen so far that's interesting in a good way, or is there a lot of just weird, confusing stuff?
It's well, I mean, I don't know. I find the aesthetic kind of bland, to be honest. So no, you asked for something good. Yeah, I was, yeah, I was thinking, yeah, maybe it's at least pretty, but actually, it's not that pretty.
It's just kind of fine.
Um, I'm I'm sure I will find something good by the end of the evening.
Reasonable. Yeah, what's up with these guys? They've got sort of a thing in the back on their back.
They do, didn't they? I wasn't quite sure, but yeah, that is actually something you
Yeah,
I'm thinking, where can I find a picture on the fly? That's part of a traditional Mesoamerican warrior costume. I don't think we have any. I'm not sure if the Maya had anything like
sure.
that, but I think we've already established that this is kind of a mishmash here.
This is
For the
definitely a
Aztec, you
mishmash.
definitely have these standards on the back, not dissimilar to, people may perhaps know the kind of banners that samurai would have on their backs.
Uh
So
huh.
it's kind of like that, just made out of feathers. Oh yeah, I think here you can see it well. Yes. Um.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Watcher. And by the way, our guy that we're sacrificing to here is this giant mummified dude sitting cross-legged, and we can either
Oh yeah,
offer
that's
gold or do a blood sacrifice.
that looks pretty much exactly like certain statues of the god of death, the Aztec god of death, Mictlantecutli.
Okay.
Um, so that's pretty closely, I think, modeled after those.
And then it has a little bit of
Um,
the whole, we dropped in gold and the statue turned into gold, so a little bit of colonialist El Dorado vibes, I feel.
yeah, yeah. Gold is the big obsession, and it's kind of funny, because to Mesoamericans, gold was not unimportant, but the way in which they expressed its importance is so weird to Europeans, because to them it was holy shit. Um, it was the excrement of the gods. Um,
Incredible.
I always find that
That is
quite
the
hilarious.
best fun fact.
Here is a picture of the statue that I think they modeled it after. Yeah, kill that guy, then then you can
Yep.
show the picture.
Don't worry, we're good. Ah, crap, it's a big room. Well, who are you? Okay, we're still not done. Oh no. That's a golem? Why is golem?
The the picture I sent you, I think that's the statue that they modeled their statue after.
Awesome. No, sorry, I'm just looking at the fight here, and being like, the guy that we're just getting wrecked by is a golem. Ow.
Oh, Golem. I thought you said Gollum, like the
Oh.
guy in Lord of the Rings, and I thought, yeah, I guess the statue kind of looks like him. um,
That would not be wrong, but, not
Yeah,
quite what I was
sorry,
going
no.
for. Yes.
while you're killing stuff, Leander Taker asked to have something run by them again. What exactly?
Not sure. Anyway, let's pull that up. Since I now survived that fight with a lot of confusion. Um,
No thanks to me.
cool, we got a couple of images here then.
Oh, yeah, I sent you the pyramid that
Yep.
they based the load screen on. Yes, you did hear that correctly, Leander Taker. Gold is the excrement of the gods in Mesoamerican conceptions of the world. Often specified to it being, and I think you can see the link, it being the excrement of the sun. Sun is golden and shiny in the sky, and gold is that golden, shiny, kind of turd-shaped lump in your hand. So yeah, that just now was the statue that I think they based their death god
Yep.
statue on.
Next time it shows up, we'll actually do a better comparison.
All
I
right.
want to also pull up the standard here for the...
And
Because
you said this is some kind of eagle house thing that we're in right now?
Yeah, so each... There are three main regions of the temple, one to each of the gods. So we got a jaguar, an eagle, and a serpent. And they will eventually say what they actually are.
All right. And is that death god thing specifically only in this eagle house?
No, it's their generic thing for just their sacrificial altar to get some sort of relic from these dead
okay,
gods.
that's stupid then. No, I was curious because Mictlantecuhtli was particularly worshipped in a temple called House of the Eagles.
Oh, cool.
Which was kind of the headquarters of the eagle and jaguar warriors. So these warrior orders. The picture you put on to show the back standard, that's actually another warrior order, a higher ranking one, because many people know the eagle and jaguar warriors of the Aztecs because of their flashy costumes, but they were actually the lowest tier of warrior orders.
Oh, cool.
So the more brave deeds in battle, and especially captures of enemy warriors you performed, the more honors you could get. And at, I think it was 3 captives, I might be misremembering, but I think it was 3, you could get into the eagle or jaguar warrior order. And then there were higher orders for higher numbers of captives styled after other things. For example, there was an Otomi order. The Otomi are actually another native Mexican people from about the same area that the Aztecs, the Nahua, often clash. And that was, yeah, you are as fierce as one of these enemy soldiers. So here you get to dress up like one. We would call that cultural appropriation today.
A little bit.
But yeah, there were lots of orders like that, styled after different themes, you could say.
Cool.
I didn't know who this lady. The statue earlier that reminded me of something. Yeah, but this lady I'm coming up blank on.
Yep,
She looks weird.
she just gives us weapons, and those weapons I paid for in blood. Uh, because every time we hit 100 curse, we'll just radically some new condition will happen that will change the way we play the game. Also, the thing I
Huh.
got for it is a sidewinder sword. I,
Sure.
yeah, I got nothing.
I mean, the theme of cursing is, of course, um, very generic, but it does give me an opportunity to talk about disease in Mesoamerica because disease, and especially disease that significantly changed the body, that disfigured the body, yeah, something like that.
Uh
um
huh.
that was intimately linked to the gods, that was seen either as a punishment, for example, of course, things like venereal disease, that was thought to be punishment for sexual misbehavior. um other kinds of disease were also seen as punishment, but it could also be a sign of being chosen by the gods. There was a special afterlife, Tlalocan, that could you would only enter into this afterlife if you died in a specific way linked to the rain gods, and it was the best of all
Huh.
afterlives. It was paradisical. It was kind of like a Garden of Eden, full of fruits and an easy life and fertility. But you could only enter if you drowned, were struck by lightning, or died of a number of specific illnesses that were thought to be caused by the rain gods. So yeah,
Amazing.
it had nothing to do with your moral behavior. It was all the choice of the gods.
By the way, this heal room is just the most ominous. Not only is it spooky purple, there's just
It
like,
has that huge skull.
and it's got piles of gunk, just like human gunk on it.
Lovely.
Yep,
Yeah, this
great
this
times.
does not look healthy.
Yep. We healed though, for the cost of quite a bit of curse, but we did heal. I guess we go this up to the attributes and see what these names of the gods are. And yes, for the books, I would agree that we are way too far south for a actual sidewinder, i.e., the variety of rattlesnake that travels sideways.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
that's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
snake, an actual real snake.
Yeah, I remember it now from I loved nature documentaries when I was younger. I kind of lost that interest, don't even quite know why. But yeah, I didn't make the connection when the sword was called that. Um,
Oh, oh crap. Well, this is actually really annoying. I don't like this. The temple now, thanks to my thing, randomly just swaps direction.
huh.
So, right, it'll randomly go from being heading generally top right to randomly top left, and there's nothing I
Oh.
can do about it. Huzzah! Well, this bridge looks not good. Ta-da!
Huh.
Um,
Um, horde of books. How would a Maya or an Aztec ever have heard of one? I guess they mean a sidewinder snake, and it's kind of interesting because we imagine non-Western cultures to be like these container boxes, all closed off from each other, because we Europeans were the ones that created connections, that created the global. and that's wrong.
Ha!
Because Mesoamerica had far-reaching trade connections, at least into the U.S. Southwest, to the Native American populations there, the ancestors of the Puebloan peoples, the Hopi, Zuni, and so on. And areas of Mesoamerica had maritime contact to Ecuador, and that's just what we
Yeah.
know at the moment. I've met a Mesoamerican scholar who theorized that there may have been long distance trade all the way into the U.S. Northwest, Pacific Northwest. And while I think that's a bold thesis, a few decades ago, everyone would have said contact to Ecuador is a bold thesis. So who knows? That might turn out to be true, might not. But we definitely tend to underestimate the capability of Native Americans to build enormously long distance
Yeah.
trade routes.
Isn't the Aztec uh, like origin myth having them coming from the American Southwest too? Like they came from up
That's a
north
good
across
question.
the right.
That's
It's from up north
they
across the
come they
desert.
come from the north. They come from the north. Definitely, that is both in their historical or mytho-historical records, and linguistically logical, because they have linguistic relatives further north. But how far north is a huge debate, and one I, not being an archaeologist, cannot really give an opinion on. There are people who've theorized that their homeland is somewhere in the southern United States. There are some who have theorized that their origin point is as close as western Mexico, in the state of Michoacan. So we don't know. We
Makes
don't
sense.
know. I don't think anyone is really sure of that. They definitely do come from the north. That is not just myth. That is ancestral memory.
Cool. Okay, and it just mirrored again. That is really annoying. That removes the. Oh wow, that's actually super good. There's this. I just picked up a dagger that deals +3 base damage per 3% more base damage per point of perception, and I have 23 perception right now. So that's
So
kind
that's
of
good.
that's kind of broken. Uh, the reason why the game is still labeled as near replicant is that it doesn't actually register when I put the update stream schedule, and so OBS and the and Twitch are not playing nice with each other. So that is fixed now. I did update it yesterday on Twitch,
Yeah.
and then today before going live, and then it still didn't do it. I promise. Oh boy. Anyway,
You had to reschedule because last week,
yep. Last week was
I
a lot.
on quite short notice, my grandma had to go to the hospital, and then on last Saturday she got back from the hospital, and I had to receive her here at home, and that was pretty much exactly at the time we were going to have the stream.
It was
So that
actually
didn't work
precisely at the
out.
time. Like it was. You texted me that like 3 minutes after I went live, that she just
Yeah.
got home. Anyway, here's a fun guy. You know, this eagle
Yeah, and
warrior,
she has.
Aztec eagle warrior helmet with 2 macahuitls.
Yeah. That's
And
nice. Still
it's-
not very Maya, but
I mean, the very, very stereotyped imagining of the Aztecs.
yeah, it's they really can't decide what they are. And
Definitely.
it's sad. It's sad because I don't know how would we feel if someone set a game in let's say a Renaissance Italy, but you had like signs in Finnish, and you had people wearing typically Dutch clothing. We would think that's stupid, but if it's brown people, it's okay. That's
A little bit, yep.
yeah.
And, this game is drawing primarily from 1930s Saturday morning marquees. Uh, so these, like, serialized radio plays from the 1930s of brave adventurers traveling to distant regions to fight off Nazis. I mean, by the late 40s, it is absolutely just to fight off Nazis. And if it sounds like Indiana Jones, that's because it is.
I don't know. Have we had Nazis trying to use ancient Maya magic yet?
Not in this game, but I actually do know of some of the radio plays. I can't remember its name, but I do know there is one where that is exactly what is happening.
All right.
So, it is less ridiculous than it sounds. Or, perhaps more accurately, it is precisely as ridiculous as it sounds. Oh, those are like poisonous laser beams. Wild.
Okay. Why not?
Why not? Anyway, by the way, I don't know if you've noticed yet, but this game, one of its core mechanics is light versus dark.
Okay.
So, right, if I'm running around in the darkness, there's that glowy purple guy. Ow. And if I pick up my torch, there's now this, like, yellow sun symbol.
Huh. Yeah, the
And
sun
so-
symbol is again styled kind of after the calendar stone. You can kind of make out the four squares for the symbols, and you can kind of see the claws on the left and right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Can I see the purple guy again?
Yeah, let me just run over into a corner
Yeah,
here.
sure.
He looks like he has big ears, and that's about all I can say.
I think that's really just the same thing with a skull in the middle and recolored. Isn't it? I'm not quite sure. It's really
There's
it's
some
really dark.
very small changes. So the like side circles are bigger, and then instead of being arches,
It doesn't
it's
quite
swirls.
remind me of anything, but
Yep, that sounds about right. Like it vaguely looks the part without necessarily being a reference to anything real. Oh yeah, Raptorus asks if this game has some Lovecraft aspects to it. So I was wondering how you feel about seemingly primarily or only Mesoamerican traditions being called Eldritch.
I don't know what are the Lovecraftian elements in the game.
Uh,
Have you encountered
I mean,
those yet?
we've not found actively anything. Oh god. I don't know. Like that guy's pretty Ow. That guy's pretty Lovecraft, to be honest.
Yeah, the corruption, the
Yeah.
losing of humanity, sure. I mean, how do I feel about that? I mean, first of all, it's inaccurate because the core idea of Lovecraft's horror is the uncaring cosmos.
Yeah.
We are insignificant. And if there is one thing Mesoamerican deities do, it's care. Not always in a friendly way. They are not necessarily nice. They demand respect, and they punish a lack of respect and dedication brutally. but they do care enormously about keeping the cosmos running, and by extension, keeping humanity running. And that, I think that to a degree is also just culture clash, because we in the modern West are very used to individualism as like the standard of morality. You have to have individual freedom, but that you can't really apply that to most non-Western cultures, both in Asia and in pre-conquest America. You have this huge importance of the communal good over the individual good, and that is kind of the logic at work here. Um, that you have to sacrifice and you have to die so humanity as a whole, or the world as a whole, can continue. Um, but that is still a form of caring. The Mesoamerican deities care about humanity a lot. Um, and so yeah, them being eldritch and alien, that is, yeah, to a degree just rehashing the bullshit. Excuse my French, that the colonizers, the conquerors, the missionaries themselves were saying to justify their actions in the conquest, because these were barbarians worshipping the devil. And in part, yeah, it's modern cultural chauvinism and racism, othering non-Western and especially indigenous cultures. And I don't think it's just Mesoamerican mythology and traditions that get that eldritchness, but they definitely get it very strongly. But African cultures get it a lot as well.
Yep.
Voodoo and all that. Um,
Very much.
yeah. So it's racism. Different flavors of it, but it's a big racism buffet.
Yep, and that, I mean, that is unfortunately coming straight out of Lovecraft. He was very big on the idea of, oh yeah, right, this is these traditions, right, which he would call cults of just bad people.
Yeah, he ascribed that primarily to brown people. Um, when you look at the Call of Cthulhu, his cultists, his main cults that appear in that story are Black and Latino people in, I think it was
Mm-hmm.
Florida, and a group of Inuit. I think it was Inuit in Greenland. So yeah,
Yep.
you have Native American, Latino, and Black people as the examples of worshippers of these world-destroying alien entities.
Yep.
He actually, it's a little known story because it is really bad, but he did actually write an Aztec themed story relatively early in his career. Um, what was it called? Give me a minute. It's not terrible, but it's not good either. Um, yeah, the transition of Juan Romero, which is
Oof.
basically about a Latino worker at a mine going crazy and rambling and descending into the mine at night, and a white worker follows him, and there's some kind of beating heart in there, and yeah, othering Mesoamerican imagery stuff.
Oofed.
Um,
Yikes.
Yikes! Yes.
Big yikes. Well, these weapons will have to be really good if, Well, that's actually just a lot. That's even stronger.
I'm still hung up on this statue.
Uh-huh.
I feel like it should remind me of something, but it just doesn't.
Ooh, is that going to be... That doesn't synergize at all. But 30% damage against a boss when about to roll into a boss fight is good. But I think I don't do any of those. Unless if I reroll? I do have a Divine Favor. I could reroll. Finishers deal crits. That deals more damage. Uh-huh. I don't actually like either of those. Okay. Anyway, it's time for a boss fight. Are there tentacles on the sides of the... I think those are tusks. Yeah. That is a good point,
Either
though.
are
There is a
really
weird... There is a weird something.
I'm really confused by this.
Uh-huh. And you can't
What
actually
is
see it.
this supposed to be?
I don't know. I have absolutely no clue.
Really weird.
And we go past all of these generically eagle warriors and these tables full of gold. Full of gold and full of, looks like turquoise.
It should probably be jade. Turquoise is very, very rare in Mesoamerica. Thank you for mentioning turquoise. I love talking about turquoise.
Good. I like talking about rocks too.
Mesoamerica because it's really interesting. Turquoise was enormously precious because the closest turquoise mine was it Arizona or New Mexico?
Wow.
Really far away.
Yeah, so that's an important
They got it via this trade route I mentioned to the U.S. Southwest, and it was enormously precious. The crowns of rulers were covered in plates of turquoise, and that's pretty much, yeah, some religious and kingship related artifacts were decorated with it, and that's about it, because it was really, really rare and precious. And it's connected to fire, which is interesting because jade, which is very precious to Mesoamericans but somewhat more common than turquoise, jade is linked to water and vegetation. They kind of have similar colors, so I always wondered why one is associated with fire and the other with water. I don't quite know, but that's how it is. So yeah, you have this god Xiuhtecuhtli, that's the turquoise lord, so that's the god of fire.
Cool. Well, I have no idea what the hell is happening right now.
Yeah, you're fighting some kind of storm dude.
Yep.
I'm not recognizing the names at all.
The names are all
gibberish.
made up.
They might be some kind of Maya. I don't speak any Mesoamerican indigenous languages, so I don't know. But yeah, I'm not recognizing the name. It's not an actual deity name or anything, I think.
Reasonable. Ow, crap, I might lose this. Come on, don't fade. Yeah, just barely got it. Holy. That was extremely close. And then we get a bunch of, like, crystal skulls, because what else are you gonna get?
Oh my god. Honestly, I don't even blame the general public, I blame the British Museum, who refused to change the label on the crystal skulls long after they knew they were fake. So yeah, the crystal skulls were probably made in Switzerland in the 20th or 19th or 20th century. They are absolutely fake. And yeah, the British Museum left them on display forever and didn't even label them as fakes.
Amazing.
Because I could sit here and just complain about the British Museum for a whole day. I
We
mean,
can do that.
lovely people work there, and they have fantastic scholars on their team. But the people who hold the strings, oh my God.
Yep. Yep. And by the way, you just mentioned the jade rings. The other thing we were getting, it does actually throw out that they are jade.
Yeah,
So it
jade
does.
is the um typical precious material. Actually, there are a lot of proverbs and phrases in Nahuatl, the Aztec or Central Mexican language, that to describe something precious, it's always jade and quetzal feathers. You may know the quetzal, that beautiful green bird with the long tail feathers
Yeah.
that lives in Guatemala. That's also a trade good they get in central Mexico, because quetzals only live in Guatemala, um, in the very high cloud forests that are permanently drenched in fog.
Amazing.
Um, yeah, I would love to to go there one day,
Yeah.
but yeah, um, um, these were enormously precious. You may know this this headdress that is, I think, in Vienna today. Um, that is made of quetzal feathers,
Yeah.
and it is just the most amazing thing. One of the very few colonial Mesoamerican feather artworks that are still preserved. I just sent you the picture
Oh, perfect. Let's pull
of
that
the
up. Well,
headdress.
oh god, that's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. It's just amazing, the way the feathers shimmer. There is nothing that compares to feather work in just the way it looks. I think there are some new questions. Let me look over that. Crystal skulls, crystal skulls.
And wow, big image.
The cursed
There we go.
gold. I don't know when or how that started, because the conquistadores definitely didn't think that gold was cursed.
Uh,
They loved taking it. I didn't know when that started. I've never encountered it in the 16th and 17th century documents I've worked with.
yeah. I've I haven't either. I've got a feeling that probably comes out of post like Carter, which is not at all Mesoamerican, but
No,
suddenly the
I
idea
didn't know.
of
Maybe. Hmm.
like, with the idea of Tutankhamun's tomb is cursed, suddenly that spreads to being not
Everything is
just
cursed.
exactly. It's not Tutankhamun is temple is cursed, but that these old foreign places have curses.
Raptors, that headdress is Aztec Mexica. So, um, it. I don't know the scholarship on it particularly, so don't know if it's true. It's often called Moctezuma's um headdress. I'm not sure if it was actually owned or worn by Moctezuma the Second, the ruler of Tenochtitlan of the Aztecs at the time of the conquest. I didn't know what the scholarship on that is, but it's often called that, and it's definitely from shortly before the conquest in the Mexica area.
Cool. Meanwhile, we just did a couple of upgrades, picked up a new blessing, did a little bit of more stuff, and now I want to see, since we're now going to go in and take a look at the other two areas, see what other things we've got. Let's see, we've got claws and a whip. Now, I have no idea why they're saying like claws are a weapon type that are usable beyond, like that's a thing game design recognizes.
I don't know, man.
But my whole understanding is that that is in no way, shape, or form a real weapon.
Oh no, no, no. The closest thing, and it's not really close. It's just maybe I just want to talk about it, and it
Do it.
reminded me of it. The Maya had a kind of boxing sport, and instead of boxing gloves, what they were a specific kind of seashell. So like a sea snail, uh, a curly shell that you would put. It was really large. You'd put it over your fists,
Uh
and
huh.
they would wear helmets to protect the head and face, and then they would box with that. Um, must have
Incredible.
hurt like hell. With those, I mean those shells, they are not smooth. They are hard and slightly spiky, so that must not have been pleasant. But yeah, that was one of their sports among the
Ha!
Maya. But yeah, that's the closest I can think of taking some kind of animal part in your hand and using it as a weapon. No, the main weapons they used were um spears tipped with obsidian, and you have the obsidian lined swords, the macahuitl, and um yeah, you would have some stone or sometimes even bronze axes, although those were rare because only a very limited cultural area in Mesoamerica uh, knew the technology of bronze production before the conquest.
Yeah.
Uh, that was what I mentioned earlier, the connection to Ecuador. That's where they got it from. That was Western Mexico, and in the early classic period, so around 200, 300, 400 CE, they had this maritime connection to Ecuador, and from that they got bronze production technology, and they
Cool.
kept it until the conquest. And other Mesoamerican cultures could only produce very low-grade bronze at a relatively low level, so it was only useful for things like bells and stuff, not for weapons. And even in West Mexico, there were relatively few bronze weapons because even they didn't produce at that high a rate.
Very cool. Anyway, so we're ending like the Temple of the Jaguar to do the second layer of that.
Okay.
So you can see, right, the whole place looks drastically different.
Oh,
Despite
I,
being.
I like that it has teeth everywhere.
Oh,
Because you actually have that, not like this specifically, but some temple doors are worked to look like giant mouths with teeth at the bottom and the top. Um, I don't know where to find a picture right now, but I think you can imagine it because it looks kind of like those lines of teeth on the bridge and everywhere there.
yeah.
So that is actually something that occurs in many Maya, specifically Maya temples. I think the written records mention it for some temples in Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztec Empire. Um, but I don't think those specific temples have been found yet. I don't think so, but I may be
Okay.
wrong. Again, not an archaeologist.
Uh huh.
Also, I keep saying Aztec. I think I should maybe shortly explain. Um, I usually say Aztec when I'm speaking to a general non-specialist crowd, because it's a recognizable term, but it's not a historical term. The word Aztec was invented in the 19th century. Um, there is like a community of different peoples, or was in central Mexico, that spoke the same language, Nahuatl, which is why we often call them Nahua today.
Yeah.
But they didn't really have a word for themselves in common. They were different nations, and there were tribes within the nations. So the ones that built that famous empire, those are the Mexica, for whom Mexico is named.
Yeah.
They were one of the nations of Nahua peoples, but within them there are again different identities, because um, each city state would have its own identity. So the citizens of Tenochtitlan, the main city of the Mexica, which call themselves Tenochca, but those of the neighboring city, Tlaltelolco, would call themselves Tlaltelolca. They would
Uh huh.
see each other as Mexica, but there was a box within the box. And then, of course, each city was divided into Calpultin, which are like crossbreed of a tribe and a neighborhood. Like they lived together in a specific borough of the city, and they had a kind of a common ancestral deities and things like that. So they were linked together. It's kind of a difficult concept, because
Yeah.
yeah, we associate this kind of yeah, tribal connection. We don't associate that with city living, but that's where they lived, in one of the largest cities of their time. Tenochtitlan was enormous and amazing. Um, and yeah, this is this really complicated stack of identities um at work there. I prefer generally the term Nahua,
Yeah.
because while it is not historical either, it's linked to the language and makes a little bit more sense than Aztec, because no one is even quite sure. Does Aztec mean the empire? Does Aztec mean the Mexica? Does Aztec mean all Nahua people, including those not conquered by the empire? No one quite agrees. So I think that that term is really quite problematic. Yeah, it should also be mentioned that empire, it's called the Triple Alliance Empire, because it is uh, actually not a centralized state with one leader, but a confederacy of three city-states that acted together. Tenochtitlan, of the Mexica people, uh, Texcoco of the Acolhua people, and Tlacopan of the Tepaneca people. So three different Nahua peoples with different histories. They arrived at different, because we talked about this. Nahua peoples came from the north, and these three, they arrived in central Mexico at different times. They founded their cities at different times. They had different histories,
Yeah.
totally different peoples that formed a confederacy in which the Mexica came out as the strongest, which is why they're best remembered. But they are not all that is to this empire. And then this empire conquered many, many other nations, both Nahua peoples and non-Nahua.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, ethnically hugely complex. For the rest of this stream, I will stick to Aztec. But you know now,
Yep.
dear viewers, that's it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Oh, god damn it. Anyway, these guys are being real. Oh no, that is a Doom laser eye. Don't love it. Don't love it. Don't love it. God, I might straight up die here soon. Either either have to burn a lot of corruption in order to get out of this. Yeah, I think that's gonna be burning a lot of corruption to get out of to heal up. Because I'm about to hit a heal room, but healing involves sacrificing my blood to get more corruption, which Feels bad.
You get corrupted by sacrificing your blood. I thought you were getting corrupted by the curse.
Uh,
And
I
that the
mean,
curse comes from the gods. Shouldn't the gods be happy when you sacrifice your
you would
blood?
you would think, but if I offer blood, right? Each weapon here has a different cost of
Oh,
uh either gold or corruption, and if I'm taking the corruption choice, I am offering blood to pay that cost. So
I don't like that.
I super don't like that.
Like that is always the central thing for me when you do anything with Mesoamerica. Don't make it about how the blood sacrifices are a bad thing. Um that's I don't quite know what to compare it to. That's like, I don't know, doing a game in the Vatican and having the host be like cursed and terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you eat a communion host, uh that's terrible.
Yep.
You take the centerpiece of a culture, its most sacred ritual, and make it all about how terrible it is.
Yep. But
Ah,
uh, it's because we're outsiders, and it's therefore obviously bad for us to wait. That makes no sense.
no, it doesn't.
Sulfurous barrels. Um, explosive barrels now explode more. Thanks. So, I mean, you can see how drastically different some of these abilities are.
You got cursed to have more things explode around you.
Correct. And while our previous one ensured that we couldn't, right, we usually have like 6 relic slots here.
Mm-hmm.
That removed one of them. Our previous one removed one of them and gave us 3 rerolls, divine favors, instead. And those are the same level of event as, hello, my exploding barrels explode bigger.
Hmm.
So, I got nothing. Oh god. And I'm now out of oomph. I parry that. Don't even. Okay, that's actually really good. I am not enjoying the fact that it is not that my parries are not connecting the way I think they should be. Huh. But anyway. Oh crap, this is a scary room. There we go. There we go, we managed it. And we get more crystal skulls.
Wonderful, just what we needed.
Exactly. I mean, they are useful because they'll let me get better stuff when I start off with. But yes, more absolutely wonderful things. By the way, I'm curious about like the faces engraved on all the walls here. Right,
Oh,
the whole aesthetic of
I
this.
didn't quite pay attention.
Right, the whole aesthetic of this place is just so radically different than the Serpent
Mhm.
Temple. I wonder if that's actually coming from somewhere.
It does look a little more Mesoamerican than the last one. That's true. So faces on walls are definitely a thing. You have often, like I said, often the whole temple is styled to look like a living being, and then you have like lots of yeah, for example, heads of deities grafted onto onto the line of a roof, or
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, faces on walls. That makes sense. Sorry, I'm kind
Yeah,
of
I mean that's fair enough, right?
um and
Is
yeah,
actually reasonable
this
is sometimes the best we can hope for.
yeah. So like I said, this Jaguar themed room looks a lot better than the last one.
Good.
Um, yeah,
Anyway,
here
yeah,
we
I
have a door with teeth.
exactly.
That's good.
And we get a weapon and then a something and then a boss. And then more stuff. Oof. We are rapidly running low on. There we go. Like you on up. Well, that was not helpful at all. Because I take less damage when I'm in the light, so I want to stay there as much as possible.
What are the greed kills?
So if you're killing people in a chain, and avoid taking damage, then you will, damn it, I just broke it. You get more gold the more people you kill in a row without taking damage.
All right.
It's basically just the extent of the logic for that. Which, is very... It's good gameplay, but in the themes of the tradition we're coming out of, which is, you know, we are in this cursed temple where people go insane and explorers turn into monsters eventually, and you are seeking fortune and glory from this place with lots of wealth. It doesn't feel super good. I don't know that it feels interesting. Can I afford that? I cannot afford that. That doesn't do a whole lot for me. That removes more corruption. But I lose damage. Yeah. I think that's worth it. So now we have a different weapon, you know? Are going fully Indiana Jones and using a whip as a secondary weapon. I think that is like the only reasonable reference point to assume there. Is that is...
They have a lot of whips I've seen
Yeah,
in this game.
they sure do. Unknowns or attributes? I think unknowns, because I don't have any space for... Oh. Well, that was lame. Okay. May as well full heal before the boss, then. Good for the progress of the run, but bad for everything else. I wonder what nonsense thing we're gonna get. Sincere offerings. Blood offerings do not cost corruption, they cost health instead. So, apparently, it's only if you don't believe it and are doing it for selfish reasons that it corrupts you. If you now actually believe, it just hurts like hell because it is blood.
Okay, it depends how much it hurts on how you do it. Do you want to know how they did it?
Sure.
So of course there's
Ow. Crap.
different methods for different cultures for different occasions. The daily blood sacrifices of a peasant family that would be taking cactus thorn and piercing like uh, the lips, the elbows, the earlobes, maybe the genitalia to draw blood. But yeah, for larger blood offerings, you could cut with a knife, or what you did for the really big events. That was what Maya royals would do in public for big blood offerings. Is you cut a slit into your tongue or into a penis if in your if you have one. And you take a rope with knots in it, and you pass that rope through the slit to increase the bleeding. So that is a huge blood offering, and that must have hurt like hell. I mean, imagine pulling a knotted rope through a slit freshly cut into your genitalia. That sounds nasty.
Sounds unpleasant by any metric.
Yes, the blood would usually be caught on strips of paper, and the paper would then be burned with blood on it. Oh yeah, here we have some lovely images. Give me a moment.
Yep,
Oh, no.
and I just killed our jaguar warrior, who was throwing.
Oh, that's okay. I can live without him.
Giant spears. Yeah. Oh, I can now lose one of the. Curses. Oh, that's big.
Sounds useful.
That was super useful.
So here you have a colonial period Aztec picture of someone. Yeah, it's rather symbolic. So you would not just take some kind of spear and ram it through your tongue, but here it's
let me
exaggerated
pull it up
on the
stream.
picture. And then you have a classic Maya relief. I'm sending you that as well.
Sure. And so
In
the first one you
lower
mentioned
right
is...
corner, you have the queen passing a rope through her tongue.
So there's the first one you mentioned for the actual blood
Yeah,
sacrifice.
I didn't find it larger. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I can just make it bigger on screen.
Yeah. So slightly exaggerated, slightly symbolic. A man ramming a pointy stick or a spear through his tongue to draw blood. And boy, does he draw blood.
That's a lot of blood. And then the other one that we get is... It has the opposite problem, being significantly larger than stream.
Yes, this one is in the British Museum, like so much loot. And it's a classic Maya relief, extremely beautiful. And yeah, on the right side you see the sitting person, that's the queen. The man beside her is the king. The queen is passing this rope through her tongue to draw blood.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is live blood sacrifice in contrast to
whatever we're doing, which is slicing our hand with a big knife.
Full-on human sacrifice.
Also dramatically different from what we're doing, which is the very dramatic take this big hilted ceremonial knife and then slice your face open or slice your hand open with it.
Oh yeah, no. You should be taking out your wiener and
yes,
and passing a rope through it. Yeah, I didn't know the rope thing from Central Mesoamerica from the Aztecs. The closest I know there is the sacrifice specifically to the goddess Tlazolteotl, who is a goddess who erases sins or misbehaviors. And to do that, you cut a slit in your tongue, and you pass a straw through it. One straw for every sin or crime or whatever that you committed.
Wow.
That was something that the missionaries were very interested in because it, of course, it has certain similarities to Catholic confession and penance.
Yeah, it does. It super does.
Some missionaries were absolutely obsessed with the idea that Mesoamerican peoples had been Christian once before and had just been
Ha.
deluded by the devil.
What a shock.
So there were lots of discussions of these similarities, which of course links to this idea of the white god, Quetzalcoatl having been some kind of white person, maybe even Saint Thomas, who had come to Mesoamerica in antiquity and preached to the people there before, and they had simply forgotten Christianity.
Incredible.
Rather than having been pagans entirely.
Well, these guys are terrible. I'm having the opposite of a good time.
I'm sorry.
No, these guys are just strong as hell and are absolutely ruining my day. Ow.
The trick is not to have a good day in the first place.
True. Not wrong. But we hit the new area and they buffed them really far. And didn't give me crap. He just been to it. Hey, I got him. Phew. That was a lot to deal with. So when we hit the new area, some of the enemies just got a lot stronger for no super obvious reason. And I just took a lot of damage as a result.
Yeah, they called this the Sun Galleries, didn't they? And now
Yeah.
they've plated everything with gold.
Yeah. So what do I get as a bonus on that? They do slightly more damage. They do a lot more damage. Okay, so I need to get rid of the hunting axes as quick as I can, because this damage is just too low. But yes, suddenly, this new place is a lot of the same vague architecture, but a lot more gold attached to it. Good catch.
Yeah. As far as I know, there was like no gold plating of buildings anywhere in Mesoamerica. I didn't know of anything like that. Gold objects, sure, it's not like they didn't have any gold at all, but it's massively exaggerated in popular media. I didn't catch what you call an Irish cross, Niram, but cross symbols do have some importance in pre-conquest Mesoamerica. Another thing the missionaries went crazy for. But for them, it represented the four quarters of the world: north, east, south, and west, and not some crucified savior. It's a rather simple symbol, so it's to be expected to crop up in more than one culture. But
Yeah.
to the especially the Franciscan missionaries there were no coincidences.
Nope, no such thing. Oh, those are explosive barrels. That's awkward.
The ones that explode extra hard for you?
Yep, I didn't realize that those were explosive barrels until I hit them, and then they started exploding. Oh, this is gonna be terrible. Oh no, he's stronger. Um. I'm just gonna hide in a corner, and I'm fine. I'm fine. Nailed it. And I need to kill 23 more enemies before I stop taking bonus damage, because I have increased movement speed, but way more damage as a result, until I kill 30 enemies, thanks to the last curse I got. Which, by the way, someone earlier asked, what do you think about them being sometimes actually helpful for you? And that's one of those things that I actually do like that a little bit more.
I don't think that has any deeper significance. I think that's a game design decision, not any cultural thing.
Yeah, I would agree. Don't I have a...
Yeah, because XKJ brought it up. Every cross goes back to one origin. Every pyramid goes one to one original culture. That is annoying today, but it is a different matter again in the 16th century when these missionaries were discussing it, because it's a matter of great importance. Because the existence or the discovery, in air quotes, of a, air quotes again, new continent, that upset their view of the world quite a lot. Specifically because the logic they operated on was that everyone in the world already knew about Christianity. The Bible states that at the Pentecost, when the Holy Spirit descended upon the apostles, they went into all corners of the world to spread the gospel. How could there be a corner they had not reached? How could there be true pagans, people who had never heard of Christ? Because people like Muslims that medieval Christians knew well, they didn't count as pagans. They knew about Christ, and they had knowingly rejected him. That's not the same. And so they kind of had to construct these narratives about how the apostles had in fact reached this corner of the world before, because otherwise, I'm sorry, you just died.
I did just die quite significantly. Oh well.
Because otherwise, the Bible would have been wrong about that all corners bit. And that was unacceptable. But another thing was at stake as well, because whether they were pagans or apostates or Jews, there was the theory that the Aztecs were the lost tribes of Israel as well, and that may seem funny and outlandish in the 16th century, but there were similar ideas about Polynesian people, about native Hawaiians in particular, in the 19th century. They were thought to be the lost tribes of Israel as well. Everyone gets to be the lost tribes of Israel at least once.
True. Sometimes more than once.
Yeah. So yeah, what was at stake here was the question of how guilty these people were of their devil worship.
That's a big deal.
Yes, that's an enormous deal. And it was in a way it was better for them to be fallen Christians in a way, than the way the conquistadores depicted them as basically subhuman, as not knowing religion at all, or Cortés himself, or great, what are these Gorgons? Are we suddenly in Greece?
We are in the necropolis, which has the snaky powers. Obviously.
Okay. obviously. Um,
Because that's totally how that works.
yeah. Cortes himself calls the Aztec temples mosques. So he draws a very, very conscious connection between native Mexicans and Muslims. And to the medieval Christian mind, a Muslim was the worst thing you could be. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so there are these different strategies of how to explain the religion and the ethnic identity of these peoples that links not to observed facts, but to what these people wanted. The conquistadores wanted to justify their brutal acts of violence and to justify a continued enslavement of the people they had conquered. And the missionaries wanted to convert people, and they couldn't convert subhumans. They needed humans. So they had to explain how these people were actually kind of okay. So you start finding signs of Christianity among them. And what's important, even though the missionary view sounds nicer, it's, I think, very important to remember that both views are culturally chauvinist, are dehumanizing and degrading towards the
Absolutely.
people they were theorizing about.
Yep. Uh, anyway, let's turn from there into well taken points into this necropolis, which is featuring catacombs with pillars of skulls and poisonous snake worshipper people.
Well, that again sounds rather Lovecraftian.
Yep.
What
Also,
was the snake
living trees that are just the worst.
thing? Yig, I think, was the snake thing in Lovecraft.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
integrating human skulls into architecture is something that that Mesoamerican cultures did. I think, was it late last year or early this year, that actually a large part of the skull rack in Mexico City in Tenochtitlan was found,
Oh yeah.
which is basically a gigantic display of the skulls of sacrificed enemies. During the conflict of the Spanish conquest, some Spanish soldiers and one horse's skull were also put on such a display. So that is
Cool.
something that was done.
That is super cool.
And I mean, I think we can see a certain connection to that in the sugar skulls that you get for the Dia de los Muertos
Yeah.
in Mexico today. I have a little clay skull that a friend brought from Mexico on my bookshelf here. So the skull as a seat of the soul, that's an idea that has remained, because in calavera just means skull, so that's not specifically the sugar skull. But the head as the seat of life force, that's very important, because the head, and especially the top of the head, what's it called, where the hair parts? Help me.
The scalp. The scalp.
Um, it's just called the crown. Yes, the
Oh.
crown of the
Okay.
head. Um, that is where the sun hits you, you know?
Yeah.
And the sun is the source of life. So your life force, your tonali, which means both air quotes soul or life force, and day and light, you absorb your life force through your head from the sun.
Amazing.
So yeah, after death, the skull is an important symbol of the endurance of life in the afterlife, of the return of the dead during the festival day that later became the model for the Dia de los Muertos.
Cool.
Which I guess
That's
might also be the inspiration for those crystal skulls, which,
yeah.
however, continue to be totally fake.
Yup. That makes perfect sense to me. Hmm. I mean, what strikes me about this necropolis, though, is how different it is from my understanding of what certainly elite, uh, death rituals and death places look like. Right, this very much
Uh,
fits the idea of catacombs, but it has, like,
w-
no relationship to.
well, um,
Uh huh.
the way funerary architecture looks like is actually quite divergent for different
That's fair.
Mesoamerican cultures. So we actually have so far found comparatively few um Aztec tombs
Mm-hmm.
because we needed a long time to figure out how they buried their dead. It's kind of a funny story. Um, so for a long time, we only found child burials because children were buried um in the house floor. All right.
Okay.
Um, because their souls were sometimes thought to kind of recycle. So they wouldn't leave, they wouldn't go away, they would just um be recycled into the next child born in the family.
Aw.
Um, but where were adults buried? For a long time, we didn't know. We didn't find any adult burials until archaeologists figured out that the Aztecs, which were the last in a long line of monumental cultures
Mm-hmm.
in Mesoamerica, they buried their dead, if they could, in archaeological sites from
Yeah.
earlier cultures, in ruins from earlier
Oh,
cultures.
amazing.
It's amazing. I mean, it makes so much sense, but it took people forever to figure out, and I can understand why. Because if you go to a site that existed centuries before the Mexica entered central Mexico, you do not go looking for a Mexica burial.
Of
So
course.
yeah, that is something we're still figuring out. Then the Maya kings, they got buried in temple structures. So they had sarcophaguses in temples, and we have the bones of some Maya kings because they were preserved in those sarcophaguses. Then you have the Zapotecs
Mm-hmm.
in the modern state of Oaxaca, who built, yeah, kind of catacombs. They built underground chambers, often several connected ones. Um, and they put the dead mostly in urns. They burned the dead and put them in urns, as did the Aztecs, in fact.
Uh-huh.
So there's different ways of burying the dead, but of course this is very unrealistic. You have these um stalagmites. Uh, this is supposed to be some kind of, I don't know, natural cave
Yeah.
that they build into, and I mean caves have huge symbolic importance as, yeah, as entrances to the underworld, as mouths of the earth goddess. Um, but this kind of hybrid structure, kind of architecture built into a cave, that's not something that you
Mm-hmm.
actually find in Mexico.
Yeah, and the archaeology of this is just really whack. I am curious about what's going on with, like, this head, because I see, like, the inscribed gold earrings and a lost lower jaw,
I
but
really didn't know. It looks, I mean, the
is there
huge
anything
eyes
with
that
that?
kind of looks like the rain god. The rain god has these huge rimmed eyes, but the
Mm-hmm.
rain god is never depicted with this kind of skull-like face. The rain god
Uh-huh.
has long teeth that are even longer than jaguar teeth or something. So
Uh-huh.
long pointed teeth. So not like this. I really don't know what that's supposed to be.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah, and the other thing that stands out to me is right, the way all this sits says, hey, this used to be a maintained space, right? It still is cave like, but right, you can see the stones are partially buried by deposited collapsed sediment. And so right, this used to be a maintained space that has since stopped being and is now just full of snake worshippers who do not maintain their space and mummified people swarming with flies.
Hmm.
This mummified dude is really weird.
Mummified people, we're on the wrong continent
We
for.
are, in fact, but look at this guy and tell me he's not mummified.
Because South Americans, many cultures in South America, most prominently the Inca, but also many Chibchan cultures like the Muisca, they did preserve the bodies of the dead and displayed them and sometimes carried them around in parades for religious holidays. Um, but yeah, in Mesoamerica, mostly the dead get burned or, like I said, interred in a sarcophagus. Not not preserved.
God damn it. And that worked out nicely. Just do that. Trap. What the hell are you?
Just another thing made out of agglutinated skulls, I think. Half of the things here are
Nope.
just like huge piles of skulls
Fungus, I
come to
think.
life.
Mostly.
I always
It
find
looked
it
like that
kind
guy
of
was
sad
fungal.
because Mexico has so many ghost stories and demon stories and scary stories that you could draw on for a dark horror-like setting like
Yeah.
this. But instead they just like kind of make the general cultural aesthetic into creepy evil,
Yeah,
and then
because
maybe tomb horrors, just put together some sludge and human body parts and call it a monster.
yep.
Sad when you have glow in the dark witches that can turn into birds.
Oh, that would be way cooler.
Yeah, they glow in the dark and they suck baby's blood. They're
Oh,
kind of terrible, really
wild.
really terrible.
Amazing, but also, yeah, super terrible.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that's one of these areas where anthropology gets kind of difficult, where you have to make that difficult decision between, sticking to your vaguely humanist values
Mm-hmm.
and respecting another culture's point of view, because of course when there are witches, there are witch hunts. So that is, of course, you don't believe that this old woman who is accused of sucking baby's blood is a witch, but you also don't want to interfere. So I'm happy I'm not an anthropologist and have
Yeah,
to
I'm
deal with
glad I
that.
don't have to deal with that particular moral quandary.
But yeah, there are these witches Tlatala Huilpochtin, um who are, yeah, normally they are women, especially older women. Um Some say there are no male witches at all, others say they are rare. They suck infant blood to survive. They must suck infant blood to survive or they die. Um, they can transform into birds. They
Uh huh.
can make people sick. And what I always find especially interesting, they are said to kind of mind control or brainwash their families into submission, into helping them. Um, which I always found especially ripe for a horror setting.
Yeah.
But no one has used it yet, I think. Or at least not in any medium I am aware of. Maybe some smaller Mexican production I don't know has used that.
Uh-huh. Wow. Yeah, that would be really actually genuinely terrifying.
Yes, and there are more stories. I mean, the most famous is of course La Llorona,
Of
the
course.
crying woman,
Yeah.
the ghost lady. She was on like the first or one of the first episodes of Supernatural even. So that one is relatively well known, and there's lots of Mexico has lots of scary stories because Mexico has a lot of scary stuff in its past, in its present, um, and makes for lots of stories. So I don't understand why when people make Mesoamerican themed horror stuff or grim dark stuff, they always just rag on these beautiful cultures
Yeah.
instead of using the actual horror that's right there.
That is, I agree, super weird. Yeah, and Seacal gave us their treasures for the cost of increasing our curse, because the thing we got that causes us great grief is if we don't have 300 gold by the time we hit the next, by the time we hit a door, we're gonna take damage.
Not good.
Exactly. Which is just really, really annoying because I can't do anything about that. Just kind of gotta roll with it. Luckily, I've got a lot of ways to heal, and lots of ways to avoid taking damage, because everything I do is ranged right now. So, we can actually offer that to the gods, even though that's not actually meaningful to do. Right, I've got actually a really cool synergy, where if I light someone on fire, using which my things have a chance to do, and then kill them, I'm gonna heal 11 health. Ow. I might take a lot more than that, but, you know. You win some, you lose some. There. So I just healed 11 health.
Yeah. Just Gazetian asks, how offensive has this game been so far? And I mean, as I said in my introduction earlier, I'm not Mexican myself. I cannot be offended by this. I can just be be saddened by the decisions made. Ask an actual Mexican person how offensive it is. I think I've seen worse, but it's just, I mean, from the way it handles the culture, it's just lazy. It takes just very surface level cultural inspirations. It basically just exploits a culture for not even its real aesthetic most of the time, but just an idea of its aesthetic. I find that's kind of just they could have. I mean, it doesn't even like this temple could be haunted by anything. They don't have to dig deep into the culture. But this way it's just, I don't know. I really don't like when they run away and like make up gods and make up names and stuff. Either you take inspiration from a culture or you don't, but don't just like make up your own thing and slap the label Mesoamerican inspired on it.
Yeah, and right, I don't think this game even marketed itself as trying to be Mesoamerican. It's just I saw the aesthetics and we're like, oh no, they are making choices
yeah,
here.
they're definitely like they're playing upon certain well-known images, like the Sunstone or Calendar Stone, like that temple in Tikal on the load screen, like the idea of blood sacrifice. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely it can't just tell you that it has nothing to do with Mesoamerica. That would be lying. But at the same time, yeah, it just took this. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not very happy with it.
Reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, Max KJ is saying it's drawing on older established materials, but I think even there we have to ask the question: are these worth drawing on?
Yeah. Because,
Are
right.
are they so valuable that we should adopt their material unchanged, or should we question that material? Should we improve on that material? I think you can imagine what my position on that would
Uh-huh.
be.
Yep, I very much agree. Interesting. So that deals poison damage and does the same amount of stuff. And deals more damage because I have a whip. But I lose my range. I think I don't want to lose range.
You have been doing quite well with the
I,
range.
I've been doing actually really well. I'm surprised at that. And, luckily, I should never, ever, ever, ever have to go to a healing one. So I don't have to worry about taking corruption. Because I can just, well, heal by lighting someone on fire. And then. Oh no. Huh?
It's true. The
Ah, crap.
the inspired versus based thing. I think being inspired, using that inspired label that takes two things that I don't quite see here, and these are originality. If you say you're just inspired by it, then you have to like make your own thing out of it. And I'm not really seeing this here. The monsters are extremely generic. It draws on certain stereotypes and like just the general idea of Mesoamerica being dark and creepy. The other thing that goes hand in hand with what I just said is respect. And I'm going to bring up the thing everyone brings up when talking about taking inspiration for cultures, and that's Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I think they did most of it right, although there are always things you can criticize, should criticize. But mostly, yeah, they had originality. It was not just stolen elements from cultures. It built its own world out of them, and it had enormous respect. It did its best to get the philosophy behind these cultures right. And so yeah, it's not based on, it's not set in specific East Asian cultures. It's inspired by them, but it does that right. And I personally don't feel this game does that. And you can feel differently about that.
Uh-huh.
But then you might not get invited to speak here.
Ha! I mean, I am all in favor of people being enthusiastic about things being good and things doing something interesting, right? I think that's another important feature here is just I much rather things do things that are interesting rather than things that are necessarily good. I'm not persuaded this one does either. And Beadora, right? I agree that I definitely have lower standards from a dungeon game versus what, like a strategy game or some other genre that typically makes claims to history. But at the same time, the kind of consequence of that is, well, we are. They're still using historical imageries, even if they aren't. Right, even if they aren't trying to be history, they still use history in subtle ways. Or, well, less than subtle ways in this case. And it's worth asking what those do, and do those have consequences to still living people? Because the Nahua still exist, Maya peoples still exist. So, right, how are we using real people's heritages in our video games?
That, but also just the factor of, yeah, is it interesting? And I would always say real cultures are interesting because they are naturally grown and they have all these details
Yeah.
that you just can't make up. So that is where it's always attractive to draw from real cultures. But yeah, I think that is also, if it made interesting uh departures, sorry, from reality, that would be much more easier for me to accept. But honestly, I mean, I have only seen this game for 2 hours now, but altogether I find it forgettable. It's not Hades or anything like that.
Yep.
Um, and it could have been, if it had cleverly used. I mean, that's obviously just one element, the gameplay and so on. I'm not much of a gamer. I can't really assess that, but using its aesthetic, its cultural background differently could have made for a more interesting and thus more enduringly loved game. Instead, yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is a very very popular game, and I just don't know.
No, this is
But
a fairly
I
small
I
niche
feel
title.
it's kind of forgettable from what I've seen so far.
Right. One thing that I am
Yeah.
curious about on the mechanic side, though, on the that right is the thing that really makes or claims to make this interesting is the light and
The
dark
thirst
mechanics.
stuff?
Yeah, no, the light and dark mechanics, right? And that you
Okay.
have a light state and a dark state that do different things.
Mm-hmm.
And right, is that actually coming from somewhere, or is that just
No,
we like the aesthetic?
no.
We think it's a cool
That
aesthetic.
um, like, I mean, I could start about how important the sun is and all of that, but honestly, I think that's grasping for straws. I think honestly, if you take just the light and dark stuff and look for something, some cultural background to use that in, I could have thought of much better ones than Mesoamerica. Why
Fair.
don't you set this in, I don't know, Persia, like with
Yeah,
Manichaeism
Zoroastrian.
and the fight of light and darkness there, that would have been fun. Or if you're hellbound for Mesoamerica, there are such much more interesting aesthetics I could have thought of. Either you, like I said, you go for actual Mexican horror stories and weave in ghosts and demons from Mexican tales in here, basically, like Okami does with Japanese folklore and legends.
Yeah.
Or you just go, yeah, for your own mythology maybe, but built on, yeah, this idea of tomb robbery, of exploiting these cultures, and for example make it about Pirates of the Caribbean style undead conquistadores, trying to still hold onto the gold even 500 years later.
Uh-huh.
That could also have been um interesting. Instead, it's really just,
Sure.
it's monsters that look like a diet version of Dark Souls at their best, in an inaccurate Mesoamerican setting. It neither the original stuff nor the culturally inspired stuff gives me anything. So yeah, this would have needed to be a different game to really, I think,
Fair
have a
enough.
lasting appeal.
Yeah. That is very reasonable. Cause yeah, right. I'm having enough fun with this game, but it's not like that's a terribly magnificently high standard. Right? Lots of things are unmemorably enjoyable. And I have, like, no... I think the idea, and, right... The idea of having a game that's set in the same sort of pulp milieu... of... Oh, interesting. Rolling puts out torches. If I'm too close to them. Wild. But, right, the idea of a game that fits this this sort of... I guess... the, milieu for words. The pulp aesthetics that it comes from, right? Because this is clearly pulling off of these tomb-robbing pulp aesthetics. And that is, on its own, not a bad thing or one that I think is a bad idea for a game. Right? A dungeon crawler where you are the pulp adventurer is super cool. It's just that this game doesn't actually challenge its own legacy as part of that aesthetic. Right? So it's pulling on your intrepid tomb robbers going through these big trapped cursed temples. And I'm not getting the sense that it's really interrogating what that means and what is going on. It uses the aesthetic totally uncritically.
Yeah, which is just that doesn't work anymore these days. The discourse has moved on.
Oh well. Hellboy and Tom Crobo do pulp better. Right, it's a different sort of pulp. Those are doing a very, I don't know how to elaborate this difference, because, right, the main inspiration here are radio plays. Hellboy is not trying to emulate the pulp of the radio plays. They're looking at a very specific genre of pulp and weird fiction that shows up in print. This game is going for those radio plays, which are simultaneously super cool and also a lot... what the heck is going on here? What is with this guy? This guy is a room with a guy that has a hat full of coins?
Oh my god, this is such a weird mashup of different elements. So you have the death god again, the skeletal death god, but you also have this huge head thing, which is actually taken from Huehueteotl, the old fire god, and this hat is actually a brazier. So this is the fire god having this bowl full of fire basically on his head, but he is not skeletal. He is an old man. So this is just a weird mashup. As for pulp adventures, that's a lovely genre. But I mean, you have this kind of Lovecraftian influence anyway. Why couldn't it be, I don't know, Relay or something? Why do you have to again have evil, creepy Mexicans?
Super good question.
So yeah, there could just be some more awareness of the legacy, but it's
and
transporting. Yeah.
Also, right, we're getting deeper and we've gone more natural and more snake-like, and now we've just like got to these huge jade deposits. So, right, I'm not even sure, right, they're diverging from their own thing apart from these little, like, statues in the center of rooms. Past that, right, there's very little at this point to actually tell me that this is supposed to be Mesoamerican.
I'm sending you a picture of the old fire god.
Awesome. Yeah, let me pull that up.
Sure, just
Opening a
get
gold...
your new course.
Oh boy. So, gold chests now corrupt us, and gold chests have more gold in them.
I kind of
Yeesh.
like that.
Uh-huh.
That really has that cursed gold cursed
Right,
cur
it's the super
thing.
pulp curse. And I don't hate it, yeah. It's
But
also just a
yeah,
good
you
it's a
you
good
you want to
gameplay
show
mechanic.
the statue?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
All right.
It just takes some
Um.
time.
Yeah. Sorry. Um. That is an excellent question, Bardora. I have no clue.
Uh,
Probably because of the place it occurs. I don't know. Are there large jade deposits in Europe? I don't think
Not
so.
that I'm aware of.
I think, yeah,
Yeah.
large jade deposits you have like in Southeast East Asia. I think Myanmar has the largest jade deposits today. And you have them in Mesoamerica.
Yeah.
So I
Uh,
think that really has to do with natural occurrence, but I'm not sure. I'm not a geologist either.
yep. That would be my guess too. Is that there's a heavy part of natural occurrence, and then also just uh, given that it's relatively rare as a natural occurrence, it becomes ingrained as like this is not something that we perceive of as valuable, and then as it goes, right, once you come in contact with it, you're like, well, this isn't all that valuable. But like Egypt, I think Egypt has uh or had some jade, right?
Jade. I'm not
At least
aware, but
had some
I'm not
jade
Billy.
jewelry. Had some used like jade jewelry. Ow.
They got lapis lazuli
Yeah.
from Afghanistan. Um,
Yeah, I know that that, but I don't know. For some reason, I remember
Jade,
them.
I'm not aware, but we'll ask Billy.
Fair. We have people we can ask. Which, by the way, this is a great time to ask to note that if you want to learn a little bit more about Egypt, on Wednesday, so Wednesday evening, I also stream, and that stream is going to be Age of Empires 1 Definitive Edition, starting the Egypt campaign with Sark.
All right.
So, a professional Bronze Age archaeologist and Egyptologist. So, another person that we can ask for Egypt type stuff. 1, 2, 3. Nope. 2, 3, and
I'm only just noticing those armadillos.
they're slugs. They're like ginormous slugs. Here, let's
Oh,
take a look
that's
at them.
boring.
I know.
I thought they were armadillos.
That would have been way cooler.
That would have been cooler for two reasons. First, armadillos are the number one spreaders of leprosy.
Mm-hmm.
And second, they do have some significance to the Maya, representing the earth. The Maya. Oh well, what do I call him? He's kind of an earth death god type thing. He's difficult. He often sits on an armadillo in art.
Oh,
So
that's
yeah,
rad.
armadillos would have been cool, but we got slugs.
Mm-hmm. Who's surprised? It's not me. God, I need you to not fight me here. Also, this guy has just like a blood, random like blood arm knife thing.
Okay. Good for him.
I got nothing.
Armadillos are cute,
They are
but
very
they are
cute.
also the number one spreaders of leprosy, so don't touch them, as tempting as it is.
And curse chest. Ow. Oh, interesting. Yeah, hey, turn them into armadillos instead of random piles of goop that are pretending to be gods sounds a lot better. Let's be honest. Right? A transformation into the divine through the power of armadillo would be way more fun.
It's kind of sweet, yeah.
Right? That's weird, but that's weird in a way that's actually interesting and has reflexes to a very oblique reflex, but still a reflex to an actual tradition. Oh, Beadora, for the syphilis fact, is that the one where it's everyone else says syphilis is from not here?
The thing with syphilis is we're still not quite sure where it comes from, because a lot of people, even in the 16th century, assumed that it was brought to Europe from the Americas, and that's possible, but there are also some um, epidemiologists, I hate that word, that think that it actually existed in Europe before.
Yeah.
It's kind of difficult. No one is quite sure. Syphilis is another one of these big mysteries.
Also, we've gone back from being like poison from crystals into just being like random poison. I don't love it. I don't know why that happened. It was way cooler when we were. Ow. Crap, and I am now super
no.
poisoned.
That is completely wrong. Syphilis definitely existed in humans in the Americas before European contact. It actually has a cultural significance in some pre-conquest Native American cultures, like the Taino people of the Caribbean, especially of what today is Haiti, Cuba, and Jamaica and Puerto Rico. For them, similar to what I talked about earlier with being chosen through certain illnesses, the Taino had a similar concept for syphilis, which was considered kind of a test. If you survived syphilis, you were considered kind of a sacred person. So several heroes in Taino stories have syphilis.
Amazing.
But yeah, it existed in humans before before European contact. It was not from Spanish soldiers having sexy times with llamas. That's not true.
Yeah. Well, I in no way, shape, or form oppose attempts to dunk on and otherwise recognize the appalling nature of the Spanish conquest. That one is maybe there's enough to dunk on them for that's actually real.
Yeah, I think it's important to stick to the reality there, because once we start adding those little fun facts, we are devaluing what actually happened, I think, and that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a common trope and often a racist one. Like these and those people had sex with these and those animals, and that's how we got HIV, and that's how we got syphilis, and that's how we got whatever. It's really a terrible trope that we should not engage in.
Anyway, onward into more of these guys. Now,
I don't know, Blood. I'm sorry. They are spelled Taino, Taino, and they only inhabited eastern Cuba, probably. There were other cultures in western Cuba, and it's not quite sure whether they were of the same origin as the Taino, because Taino itself, like Aztec, is a later term, and it's kind of made incredibly complicated in that the Spanish kind of um called the people they got along with one thing, and the
oh,
people they fought with another. And it's not always clear, are these really separate ethnicities, these Arawak and Carib people, or are they actually one ethnicity, and just the ones they don't get along with they call a different thing? So it's really, really complex, and we're not really sure always which ethnicity a certain group belongs to. And Cuba is especially complicated because it has these people that sound absolutely outlandish um in the conquest accounts, because allegedly in western Cuba people were still living in caves, didn't build any dwellings but lived in caves, and we're not sure if that's true. They may just have hidden in caves when the Spanish came to escape them.
yeah.
We're not sure. We're not sure what ethnicity they really were. So yeah, I don't know why you didn't learn about this stuff. Blood. Um, as far as I know, Cuba does have some museums and things about that stuff. Um, I don't know. Now you know, and you can go. Um, um, the Caribbean definitely was not as densely populated as the continent. How densely um either was populated is a good question and a huge debate among um specialists, um which I'm keeping out of consciously, because like I said, I'm not good at mathematics. I will not get into like estimating population sizes.
Oh God.
I'm not joining. Are you literally just fighting a
Yes.
crystal skull there?
I was
floating
lighting a floating crystal skull.
Oh my god. Um, but yeah, how densely either was populated is difficult. Today there are no recognized surviving Taino people in the Caribbean. There are some groups that claim, I'm carefully using the word claim, um to be Taino, that want recognition as Taino. The governments say they aren't. It's difficult. I can't decide it. Um, but yeah, the standard narrative is that the Taino as a culture disappeared over the course of the 16th century, largely due to epidemics, but also due to the harsh work regimen um, of forced labor that they were subjected to. Of course, modern Latino people in the Caribbean are they of course have the genes of the indigenous people from back then, but that's obviously not the same as the culture as such
Correct.
surviving. Um, so yeah, these are among the many Native American cultures that disappeared um, after European contact and European invasion.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going up against Ratiapu, the Abomination, which
Great name.
Joyous. Also, the guys that were, in fact, just floating crystal skulls, and, you know, that totally Mesoamerican entity of the Titans.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
not?
Uh, what? I am
Again,
parrying this guy.
I have seen so many designs like this one before.
Yeah.
It's really not that original.
Ow, he is wrecking me though, so good on him.
It's
He is.
something.
What the heck is that? There we go, got the parry, finally.
Yeah, calling him the abomination. It's again such a Lovecraftian touch.
Mm-hmm.
I think this as a kind of, I don't know, relay dungeon crawl would have been much more fun.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Max
god.
KJ, that's exactly the problem I have with bad representation. It becomes all people know about this culture or these symbols or this aesthetic. And that's why I really have problems with bad representation like that. Because people, like, the creators then always say everyone knows this is fiction. No one will take this as a textbook. But that's not true. People just absorb information. If this is the only thing about Mesoamerica they've ever seen, they're going to maybe not think they're absolutely right, but this is just going to be all they know about it.
Uh-huh.
Whenever they hear Aztec, they are going to think of this.
Yeah, exactly.
300 as an accurate. Forget about the Spartans; they're not the worst about that movie. The Persians are. That is terrible. That is such a gruesomely Orientalist, xenophobic take. It's
Yeah. That movie has a lot of
terrible.
problems.
Yeah, and blood, Lovecraftian in a good or a bad sense. Is there a good sense?
I mean,
No, I mean,
right.
I like Lovecraftian horror, but I'm not quite sure what a good sense of Lovecraftian would be, because Lovecraftian is always, it's meant to be terrible. So yeah, no, just calling it some kind of abomination of these kind of names, X the scary word, that's very very Lovecraftian is what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to save the skulls, I think. Anyway, right. Americana, or
I mean, a scary name doesn't make good horror.
Correct.
So
I want to take a look.
I was
at,
really
does
just
it say
commenting on
anything
the name and
about
how
this?
it kind of is built like a lot of Lovecraftian creature names.
Yeah. It super is, and they're all named like this, like Zukat the Witch, and Coxtaka, High Lord of the Storm. Right, they all have these things of being name epithet. That doesn't actually, I think, yeah.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't see a lot of.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know Mayan,
meaning?
but
Yeah.
those names don't ring a bell at all.
No, I mean they're absolutely 100% made up. I'd be really mad. I'd be like way more mad at this game if they did use real, or if they did pretend that they were able to use uh like real figures and real gods
Yeah,
as part
maybe.
of their bosses in a video game. Right. That'd be real bad. But yeah, you're still getting that sense though of right, the primary thing going on here is spookiness that the brave European gets corrupted by as they go through. And that the people who engage with this inevitably get turned into monsters that are totally fine to just murder. Totally cool to just murder with. And so, my worry is that this feels all super duper Orientalist.
Colonial.
Or sorry, yes,
It's not in
yes,
the Orient.
it's not East. Yes,
And
yeah, but
Said is very
Yes.
insistent on,
yep,
on
I goofed my words.
Orientalism being specific to that region.
But yeah,
Um,
very
yeah,
imperialist
colonialist.
and very
It's
colonialist. Yes. Yep, I just goofed my words. There was the word I wanted to say and then the word I did say, and those were not quite the same word.
on Lovecraft, Max KJ. Like I said, I enjoy Lovecraftian horror. I think he has written very good stories. I I'm kind of mad about him being so racist, because why is this racist so good at what he does?
True.
But yeah, no, Lovecraftian horror absolutely can work. I was mostly joking about good versus bad.
But it is all bad in the sense that everything sucks all the time.
Yes, that's what I was aiming at with
Yes.
that joke.
And yeah. Yeah, you're right. It absolutely, the more I'm thinking on it, I agree with you that this feels so much like it wants to be. You are exploring various districts of, like, really? And it's skinning that city as Mesoamerican, even though that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Hey, there's one of those feather headdresses. Neat. Ow. God dang it.
Yeah, like the decorations, the walls and such, it's not entirely terrible, but it's
Right.
also quite generic.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I look at the patterns and I think, did they maybe just Google Aztec pattern and
Yeah.
and took the clip art they found there, because it's
It is all genuine,
very,
but it's
very
not the cool examples.
specific. Yeah. And like I said, where they put the patterns, like the what's on the floor, what's on the walls, really shows they have not looked at like more than 2 pictures of a temple or something.
Yep. I totally agree with that. Also, right, I have absolutely no clue why they're going... I mean, they're going Eagle, Thunder, away we go. But right, that
Yeah,
means
because
everything is...
eagles are in the sky.
Yeah, exactly. And it's Zeus. It's... Right. The eagle being the
Oh.
bird of Zeus.
Yeah, the eagle is the warrior. The eagle is associated with warriors, with courage. It's the symbol really of. I mean, it's still the eagle sitting on the cactus, it's still on the Mexican flag because that was the symbol of Tenochtitlan. It's an omen they saw and knew this is where we should found our city because they saw this eagle landing on the cactus.
Yeah.
So the eagle is a warrior symbol. If you want something associated with thunder, you take a snake because a thunderbolt is a snake.
Oh, of
Lots of
course.
things are snakes.
That
Snakes
makes perfect sense.
have so much symbolisms. Snakes can symbolize earth, water, sky, pretty much everything. Snakes are very versatile in that.
Ark of the Conclave. The Thunderbird is primarily a Pacific Northwest.
Not just you have
Yeah.
the most famous Thunderbirds, I think, are the Lakota ones in the
Yeah.
Great Plains, and you have Thunderbirds all the way over in the Great Lakes area.
Yeah,
So
but
you got them everywhere.
So the
in
initial-
the
I mean-
northern half of
Exactly.
North America.
Yep. So, but that's very far away from here, and the fact that it's conflating those two, if it is conflating those, as you know, oh yeah, we heard that like native peoples have thunderbirds. That's bad,
Yeah.
right? There are options here that are not terrible, but there are a lot. Ow, god dang it. There's some. Let's just grab that. Some things that are not terrible, but there's a lot of ways to read this that are really pretty bad. Pretty super bad.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Thunderbolt, I'd use a snake, but then again, you could use a snake for pretty much everything. Otherwise, animals closely associated with the rain and thunder gods are frogs and toads. At the ruins of the Templo Mayor, the main temple of Tenochtitlan, we actually have small statues of frogs left because the Templo Mayor was actually two shrines on top of one pyramid. One was dedicated to the war god and patron of the Mexica people, Huitzilopochtli. The other
Okay.
half was dedicated to the rain god, Tlaloc. And on his half you have little statues of frogs on the steps. In the modern Huastec area in modern Veracruz state, the toads are considered the wives of the rain gods. So every rain god has a toad for a wife. So this is another animal very closely associated with the rain and thunder gods.
Yeah, so I suppose the question then is, assuming the explanation is not laziness, why did they not do it, for lack of a better word, better? Right? Why are they saying that the eagle is the one with thunder associations? If we are assuming not malice or not pure ineptitude, right? What's the logic here?
I mean, the eagle is such a small element. I mean, if it was just the eagle, it would be fine. Eagles are in the sky. I can live with that.
Yep.
It's really the everything. It's and
Yeah.
I don't think it really is anything but laziness. Like I said, this basic idea could have made for an enormously creative, lasting game. But they kept things pretty simple in every regard. with, like I said, very generic designs. I mean, harpies. How many harpies have I seen? And they're not even like, if they, I don't know, have scorpion tails or something new, that would be cool. But they're just harpies.
Speaking of which, we may have
so-
unlocked the. No, we need to defeat 7 more harpies to figure out why they have harpies in this game.
Okay.
Maybe this run.
So it feels generally pretty lazy. Yeah, that's my
Fair enough.
explanation. I think there were some new questions portraying the player as greedy invader, which is a good idea, but it's so vague, and the temple is so cartoonishly malevolent that I can't, in good faith, give any credit. Yeah, that's basically my point. Like I said, if this was Tomb Raider, who was fighting, like I said, zombie conquistadores, basically the Tomb Raiders who came before him, that would be cool commentary. But it isn't. I'm very ignorant on Mesoamerican history, but didn't hummingbirds have a relationship to warriors? Correct, so that god of war I mentioned, Huitzilopochtli, his name means hummingbird of the left or of the south. The words for south and left are the same.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
The hummingbird to the Mexica was another warrior symbol, because in spite of their cuteness, hummingbirds are very territorial and they are quite tenacious little bastards. And so they got that warrior fame. And also they are these fleeting, fluttering little creatures like butterflies. So like butterflies, they are considered reincarnations of the dead, specifically of fallen warriors. So if you die, you get to spend, if you die as a warrior in the battlefield, you get to fight alongside the sun, which has to do daily battles with the stars for a while, and then you get to be a hummingbird or a butterfly for a while. Getting attacked by a hummingbird would suck, that is true.
Yeah.
I'm not even out of it, so...
I think that's pretty safe to say. Like, getting attacked by a hummingbird would hurt like hell.
Probably, yeah. They have that stabilicious beak.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I suppose the next question is there anything that you've seen in this game that you particularly like? Because obviously, like, justly, there's been a lot of critiques leveled at this game right now. Because it is very generic, and I think it's safe to say, are being extremely uncritical about the imagery they're using and what that actually means and does.
So the basic conceit, we've actually mentioned that a number of times, the basic conceit of that cursed status, that corruption of your body, I find that very interesting and has a lot of potential. I wish it had done more with that. Yeah, well, while the monster designs are pretty generic, there's also at least some design elements that I think aren't entirely bad. Like there was this one monster that was basically just a giant clump of skulls on legs, and while that again interacts with stereotypes and doesn't quite fit in and so on and so forth, as a basic idea, it's pretty creepy. That in another, like, there are some little things that I would have kept in our hypothetical other game. Also, these statues, they are pretty nice. I
Good.
have pretty much no problem with the moving warrior statues.
I mean,
Those
the extent of the problem I have with them is just the basic idea of that booby traps aren't a thing, right? There are
of course,
no temples.
They aren't in Egyptian tombs either, or any tombs, but they are such a staple. I can really if it was just that, I could really forgive that.
Yeah.
And they look kind of they aren't too badly done compared to a lot of the rest.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they are actually just using stone as the go-to thing for bridges that crumble as you walk across them, which is just I
Hilarious.
mean I think it's trying to maintain the uh, consistency of the aesthetic for just stone stuff, but it is absolutely hilariously nonsense.
You're thinking of Tezcatlipoca, blood. The god who lost his leg when baiting the earth monster to kill it to turn it into the earth. And yeah, he's associated with jaguars and destroyed the first world by releasing jaguars onto it and having them eat everybody because he was angry.
Well, that's fair.
We've all had a day like that.
Exactly.
At least once, I think.
Huh.
Isn't it the same guy you fought before?
Yeah, we're doing the same thing. Just I'm gonna
Oh,
try and
okay.
get into the second because there are only a handful of bosses in this game. Ah, crap. Ow. Ow. I was hoping to get past him to see what the next area looks like, but we're gonna see if that's even possible. Because it certainly is not going to be easy right now, the way these guys are acting. 1, 2, 3. God, no. Ah, crap. He does so much damage! Ow, I rolled through that, I promise. Come on, get over here. Got him.
Well,
Okay, well at least get to see what the next area looks like.
for what Blood says, there's almost something like an elephant in the room, isn't there? Because there was a game that was announced recently about, yeah, that seems to be more faithfully inspired by Mesoamerican mythology, and that is about fighting the gods and stuff.
Is that the Azteca game?
Aztec with
Oh
a
yeah.
CH.
Yep.
Um, I've seen a trailer. I was kind of cagey about both the kind of flimsily clad lead and the conceit of killing gods, which I never like. Sorry, God of War.
I don't like it either.
Because yeah, it always feels really insensitive to me. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe that does this better. Maybe that does some of the things we've been discussing today. We'll
Hopefully.
see.
Hopefully. When that comes out, I would be delighted if you come back on so we can take a look.
Sure.
Now let's see what this ancient laboratory looks like.
Ancient. Oh my god. Pull the lever.
Pull the lever, Kronk!
Wrong lever.
Uh-huh. I don't know what lever would be the right lever, but Yeah, that sure is a court. What is happening?
Okay, hey. It looks cool. I will admit that.
Hey,
That looks
I'll give
kind
it
of
fair
cool.
credit too. It does look rad. Ow. No, don't do that. Don't do any of that. Oh no, this is super harpy. I'm scared.
A super
Is
harpy.
is that a electric baby? What the hell? Chat, can I get a sheep? You know it's time. Give sheep.
Babies.
I got nothing. I got.
I mean, sometimes the rain gods are depicted as dwarfs.
Okay,
But
but
that still feels wrong.
also, those weren't dwarves.
No, those were babies.
Those were babies with umbilical cords. Okay, dreadful offspring is in fact a lightning baby.
Ugh.
Just
Okay, suddenly it changed to Tron.
Yeah.
This is our new aesthetic now. Okay.
apparently. I have lots of concerns. I have nothing but concerns.
By the way, how's your voice holding up?
My voice is fine. This is gonna be our
Alright.
last run. Whenever I die, that's when we're gonna call it a night. But
Alright.
turns out tea with a lot of honey in it helps out a lot. That is just a turnstile of Zappy Doom.
Okay.
What happens
I
if I
don't
get
know
someone?
how to tell you, but I have never seen anything like that in a Mesoamerican temple either.
I think I figured that one out. Please no. I do need to light people on fire. Or this on fire. Okay, and are we almost there? Got it. Also, this looks kind of like Moria-like, right? Big, long staircases going to nowhere, cracked apart. Right, they're pulling that straight from Lord of the Rings. I don't know where else they could be pulling this specific, right? The giant abyssal imagery within these columns with narrow staircases that run between them feels very Hazardum. Which I think is revealing of how freely they're just blending stuff that they think looks cool.
Yeah, I mean, if it was like a conscious blending, that could be cool, but it really just feels random.
Or at least it feels I don't know that it necessarily feels random so much as it feels just uncritical. Like they are not actually thinking about how the pieces fit together. Like, there is
Mhm.
conscious thought going into what pieces are you using where, but not really understanding the less clear ways that they fit together. Yeah, there's also some Hollow Earth stuff going on. I also super agree with that. Right, theoretically we're actually going up the temple, but it sure feels like we're going, down. Hollow Earth, you could almost go also like Atlantean or Lemurian as, like, a weird
It would have been so
analytic...
much better if this was Atlantis you were exploring and
Uh-huh.
didn't like. Uh-huh.
Yep.
I promise one day I'm going to stop complaining about that stuff,
Nope.
but that day is not today.
Ah. Two, and hit. One, two. Let's get some light up here. Damn it. Ow. Got him. Okay, good. Huh. That should make the rest of this a lot easier. What's up?
No, I'm thinking about Blood's question. Is it really worse than most takes on
Mesoamerican representation?
Mesoamerica? And I mean, I guess not. I don't think it's the worst I've seen.
That feels
But
like a
I
low
mean, does
bar.
it have to be the worst? Like, why can't it be the best? Why can't it try? You know?
Exactly.
And I mean, even I don't know if by pointing to El Dorado you mean the DreamWorks movie, The Road to El Dorado. Even they had a really well done aesthetic. I mean,
Yeah.
culturally it's a mess, but the backgrounds, a lot of that was drawn directly from Mesoamerican art. They had John Paul as a consultant who is an eminent expert on the Zapotecs and Mixtecs. So even that film, and it's really more of a guilty pleasure. Even that film, I think, tried harder than this. This really just put, like I said, some Diet Dark Souls in a Maya temple. Bless you.
Thank you. Sorry. I try to mute whenever that happens, but I was in the middle of something. Also, our torch no longer actually, like, does anything. Our torch is now just dark. Which is annoying to see stuff, but also... You know, this is classic mad scientist, like, even frickin' the recent... like, Fire and the Shadows of Valentia has the same thing of, like, the mad scientist in the laboratory doing experiments on people creating piles of goop. Right, this is just mad scientist aesthetics. It's not actually Mesoamerican in any meaningful or unmeaningful way. Whereas that sort of the ultimate feels bad. Oh boy. This is gonna hurt.
The funny thing about El Dorado, because you mentioned its blood, is they kept looking for it for so
So long.
long,
They
even though
spent
they
so
had
much time.
actually already found it by the 1550s. Because by to our knowledge today, the legend of El Dorado was inspired by ritual practices of the Muisca people in the area around today's Bogota in Colombia, who would cover rulers in gold dust for their taking of office.
Uh huh.
Um, and that kind of inspired the idea of these people who just had so much gold they basically threw it away. Um, but the Muisca people were conquered in like I said 1550s to 1580s, that area more or less. But they kept looking for El Dorado after, because the rumors, the legend had exaggerated it so much beyond these actual rituals that, of course, when they found these people, they weren't what they were expecting. So they kept looking elsewhere for a good 150 years after. It only really stops in the 18th century.
And I'm dead.
To
Yep. Keep going. Yeah. It is very funny, but this game still taps into that legacy, right? The idea that, I mean, what is the thing we are getting? What is the thing? What is the primary thing we are doing? We're getting gold. That seems to be like the end state is I mean, escape is the end state, but escape with as much gold as we can is the end state.
yeah. And like I said, I do like that basic idea. I'm just disappointed by what it was turned into.
Yeah, I think.
Like, we've said that before. There's so much room for commentary here.
Yeah, right. There's absolutely room for there to be a really genuinely anti-colonialist theme and a critique of pulp narratives, right? Without even like necessarily playing the tropes for maximum twist, you can still like acknowledge the harm of the tropes and think about them while still making this aesthetic uh still genuinely feel pulpy. So right, something like Lovecraft Country, I've heard, does at least attempts to actually like think about Lovecraft and his ideologies while also still being reasonable Lovecraft mythos.
Oh yeah, I've read the book early last year. I've loved it. I was super surprised to find out the author is white, actually.
Uh huh.
Because he really addresses all these race issues of the 50s and 60s in an amazing way. And I mean, his book was adapted to the screen by
Yeah.
Jordan Peele of all people, so he must have got some things right
Uh huh.
about the race issues. And yeah, it is really a beautiful, brilliant deconstruction of Lovecraft's racism, I think.
Yeah, and it
I did like that book a
and,
lot.
right. What I've heard is that it does that without going like, oh yeah, we must. It must be the case that we are being subversive, and really messing with the tropes so that everything is meta.
No, yeah, it's definitely it's a lot of people have criticized it for not featuring a lot of tentacled monsters and crazy gods.
Oh, but
It taps into a different strand within Lovecraft's mythos, and that is um the sorcerer stories, the stories about, yeah, people trying to raise the dead and stuff like that. He has stories like that too, and it deals more with sorcerers than with tentacled monsters, but it's still very much it fits neatly into many of Lovecraft's ideas.
yeah, yep. And so the point is, yeah, basically right. They you could simultaneously have something that feels right, uh, without make while still being able to actually think about the implications of what you're doing. And unfortunately, I think we're in agreement here. This game, despite wanting to be primarily, your roguelike pulp adventure from the 1930s, 1940s, really doesn't think about what these visuals mean beyond being surface level aesthetics. And so ends up making some very, very problematic choices. And unfortunately, we can't just leave. I can run all this way. And then I can't leave. So anyway, I think that wraps up our stream for today, unless if you have any sort of concluding thoughts.
No, I think I've said and repeated pretty much everything I have to say about this game at this point.
Yep.
But yeah, I hope people got some interesting little facts and observations out of this.
Yep. And thank you
I
so
hope
much for
people
coming on.
learned something and enjoyed learning it. I hope I didn't bore anyone.
Yep. And anyway, now announcement times. As I said, if you do like this, make sure you're followed and subscribe to the channel to help support it and let me know that you want to see more guests on and more stuff like this. Wednesday, as I said, we're going to have another guest on. A Bronze Age archaeologist is going to be joining us for Age of Empire 1 Definitive Edition's Egypt campaign. Not the tutorial one, the other one, which I think is called Dawn of Civilization, which means it's going to be a good time. And then, Saturday, we're going to have more Near Replicant, Ordinary Stream. And 1 week from today is the AC Valhalla, Wrath of the Druids, Enter the Thunderdome extravaganza. I will have 3 historians specializing in various aspects of the Celtic insular world. Emmett222, if they are still in chat, is one of them. And if you watch the Gloucestershire stream, Eleanor from there will be back. And then someone who does gender history and Pictish history will be joining us as well. So 4 historians, 1 Assassin's Creed DLC. Take your bets. Y'all aren't ready. We aren't ready, and we've been prepping for over a month. Also, yes, join the Discord. Link was just helpfully provided by helpful Twitch mod Raptorus. And there's so much cool content on its way. Because Saturday we should also hit the end of part 1 of Near Replicant, which means the stakes are going to go rapidly through the roof, and it's going to be a good time. So make sure you're followed. Make sure you tune in. It's going to be a busy, busy week. And on that note, I hope you all have a good rest of your day, and a good couple days until I see you all again. And once again, one more round of applause for Sacerdos for coming on. This was awesome, man. Thanks.
Thank you. It was a load of fun to be here.
Great. Anyway, you all have a good day, and I'll see you next time.